Hello, and I am the extremely partial commentator, coming here with some reaction to the Manchester United Stoke City game this weekend, and just going to talk about the team and where they're at a little bit. So, played Sunday early morning. Man, it was early. It was really, really early here. I think I said that about 9 times in the commentary, but it was really early, and that's why I was falling asleep. And because Stoke weren't winning, and I was really nervous. I was nervous and tired, and it just was wearing me down. But, the game went as expected. Manchester United got quite a few chances. Lee Grant was awesome in goal. He's done really well since coming in. Shea Given was kind of not doing great, to be nice. And Haugaard, when he came in at the end of last season, he wasn't doing good. So we've been really wanting Butland back, but Lee Grant really has stepped up in the past couple games, and that's good because one thing about Stoke is whenever they've played well, they've had a good goalkeeper. And that's true with Jack Butland, but that's true with Begovic. The last few years since Mark Hughes came in, they really rely on their goalkeeper, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of teams do that, relying and having a really solid person in that position. But we haven't had that for a while, and it's really hurt us. So Lee Grant coming in has been awesome, and he had some huge saves. The one where Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the one where he broke through on goal, I thought that was gonna be a goal for sure. I mean, he broke through. It was just him and the goalkeeper, and it was just an awesome save. And Lee Grant had a few of those, and I actually think we played better defensively than we have, and they had a lot of chances, but it's Manchester United. They're going to have a lot of chances, so it was probably our best game of the season so far for the performance that a lot of the players put in. It was just pretty solid. People were working hard and clicking up a little bit. The one thing that was driving me crazy, especially in the first half, it was really bad, was just giving up possession for nothing, just passing it right to him, and Bonnie was pretty bad about that. I'll get to him a little more later in the game he had, but that was a worrying sign. Just a lot of stupid, silly passes, a lot of poor play, and it was either really bad or really good. They were like a two-faced team in the first half, and I know saying that a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, it was all Manchester United," but there were a couple points where Stoke broke through and. Maybe they didn't look dangerous to the United players, but they were coming at them, and they were really showing them that if they gave them the opportunity, they were going to attack. And they didn't take those opportunities like they should have, and they didn't create enough of them, but they still did create them. And there were enough reminders in that first half of like, hey, you can't just expect the win. You're going to have to earn it. And that was a good thing. The second half was better. They came out stronger and kind of were a little bit tighter. Lee Grant was still on his toes a lot, but the whole team were on their toes, and they were just a little bit tighter, a little more threatening the second half, and the game opened up a little bit more. The goal that they gave up was, it was disappointing because it was a good finish by Martial, but it was kind of a lucky bounce that the ball came to him, and that's fine. That happens, and that's part of the game, and you can't complain about it. But it's not like somebody just like sliced through the defense with a really nice pass, and you're like, oh, there's no stopping that. It just, the ball's bobbling, it lands right to him, and he did well with it, like he does. He's a really good player, but that sucked and was really disappointing to be in the game for that long. And at that point, you're thinking there's not really a whole lot of time to come back and earn that draw, which they did. And fair enough, I think it was maybe a goalkeeper error on De Gea's part, but I also think that Stoke did what they needed to throw United off their toes and open up the defense. And when you look at it, Peter Crouch and Joe Allen are the two players who are on the back post, or not necessarily back post, but are on the back side of David De Gea. And there's no United players there, so if it's going to get finished, it's going to get finished by Stoke. And they opened it up well. They positioned themselves well. Peter Crouch, who's the tallest man in the world, you think would have headed that into goal. But just the weird way it came off De Gea, and Crouch wanted to like go for it then, but it was too high at that point, and it was going to come down, and he knew he could get it on the rebound, except it kind of hit the bar, and it didn't just bounce off the bar, it kind of rolled along it, and Crouch just at no point could get his head anywhere near the ball. But there was Joe Allen for his second goal. That's awesome. I think he's easily. I mean, Lee Grant was the best player in that game, but the past few games and second best player against United and stuff, it's easily Joe Allen. He's been working hardest. He's been, if every other person was matching their potential in their position like Allen is, we'd be flying. But he's been great, and I think he's a good influence on the team. People, and by people I mean the stupid American commentator here in America. He's like the one American guy, but he's still talking about Steven Nzonzi being, a letdown and blah, blah, blah. And I think that they've brought some players in to address that. So I think that's a silly thing, but I think the idea of there being not enough control in midfield from Stoke, I'm cool with that. That's a completely fair criticism. And I think Joe Allen's really good for the like solidly midfield. He doesn't strike me necessarily, even though he scored a couple goals and stuff, I don't think he's necessarily been a super attacking minded, or I don't think Mark Hughes has put him in a very attacking midfielder kind of mode, as opposed to Glenn Whelan, who's in a very defensive midfielder mode. I think Allen is like solidly in the middle. He's like half and half, really, really solidly, and that's awesome. And I think that's one of the problems Gianelli and Bula's had since coming to the club, is that they don't. I think Mark Hughes wants him to be a defensive midfielder. I think he wants to be an attacking midfielder, and I think they haven't figured out where he lands. And I think that's part of the issue with Mbula, who hasn't played for a couple games now. He got dropped. Mark Hughes, I'm trying to think. There was like one change, maybe. No, it was the same team that played against West Brom. Bonnie started. Arnautovic and Shaqiri were out there, and those guys are both putting in 75% right now, I think, is what they're operating at. I think they've got a lot more talent, and I think they've got a little bit more work rate. They're both working pretty hard, and they're both doing some good things. I just think they need to be a little bit cleverer. There's some of the guys on the team who can really find a really interesting pass or a clever kickabout or whatever that opens up the play, and I think that the team relies on them to create that, and I think they can create that. So they've been lacking there a little bit, but they're both playing pretty well and pretty solid. Can't complain too much. Joe Allen in the midfield along with Glenn Whelan, and I already sung Joe Allen's praises, and Glenn Whelan was pretty solid. I think he was a little off. I don't know how he feels playing in like a straight three, which is kind of how they've been doing it, is the three of those guys, Allen, Whelan, and Cameron, straight across. I think Whelan's a little bit more used to kind of sitting behind the rest of the midfielders in between the midfield and the defense, but I think he played well enough, and Jeff Cameron, I think, has done well in that midfield. I think even though we still have massive problems there and we're not controlling it like we should, the last two games in midfield have been much, much better than the rest of the season has so far. With Whelan and Cameron in there, it's definitely probably a little more defensively minded, although Cameron had a couple really, really good chances. In the first half, he had one really sit up for him, and he just kind of sliced it wide, but it's the kind of shot if you'd put someone like Arnautovic or Shaqiri or Boyan or maybe Bonnie on the end of it even, you'd probably plan on it going in, but Jeff Cameron just put it wide. But it was an instance where Stoke showed they could open up United. I mean, it was him in the goal there, and De Gea obviously, but so midfielder I think has been better. We have Glenn Johnson has been, I don't know, man. he doesn't, I feel like he makes the wrong decisions a lot, and he's got some talent, but I just don't think he makes good decisions a lot of the time, but he has stepped in and helped the defense out, I think, and he's been a little bit more solid, and he's added a little bit in that he'll go further up the pitch with the offense in the midfield, and I think that's added something, and Peters has been doing well at that too, and so I think having those two, I think it's pretty important for us to have those like flank players. Like if you look at Spurs, the way they use their left back and right back is really effective, and I think Mark Hughes wants to get that going in. In the preseason he messed with wing backs, like a back five and wing backs, just to see how it would work around, so he really likes those wing players coming from the defense and coming up and supporting the play, and I think that's cool, and I think that has been helping Stoke out, and Johnson's been helping with that a bit, and so I'll give him a little bit of credit, and he of course got one of those cut-ins and tried to take a shot with his left foot, and that's what created the goal scoring chance and all that. So I'll credit him there. You know, Bruno Martins Indy and Shawcross are, I think their partnership's got to get worked out. I think individually they're both still good players and good defenders, but I just think they haven't quite made it there with how to work next to one another, and that is, it's going to take time, and it's hopefully it clicks sooner than later. But overall, the defense, I mean, we've still let in 2 goals the past 2 games. We can't keep a clean sheet to save our lives, but it's not the 4-goal, I don't think at any point. I mean, a lot of people would argue, I think one of the players in Mourinho was like, oh, we should have won 6-0. And it's like, well, what the hell, man? You think the goalkeepers, I just get annoyed when goalkeepers get played down as if when you have a game like Lee Grant did, he had a great game and stuff, but he performed. He did what he's supposed to do. And, no one, when a striker goes out there and scores a goal, no one ever, oh, wow. Oh, it's so great. And lose their shit over it and say, oh, he should have, it's just, he did what he does, and to a point, goalkeepers do what they do, and so I'm just a little annoyed by that concept of they should have won 5-0. It's like, yeah, if there was an open net the whole fucking game, fair enough. They hit the bar, that shit happens. That's not bad luck. That's Pogba had a couple chances and he sliced it wide, so you can't say we should have won this. Blah, blah. I just don't get into it because if everyone's performing at their top level for Manchester United and everyone's performing at their lowest level for Stoke, maybe they would have won that game 5-6-0. But that's not the frickin' case, and Stoke put up a good show, and Manchester United couldn't break them down. Part of that was the goalkeeper, a big part of that, and that's fine. But to suggest that they should have scored and they were just unlucky, that does a disservice to Lee Grant, especially because he kicked ass. And he's a guy, he's 33, I think, trained all his life to be a frickin' goalkeeper. He's in one of the biggest leagues in the world, and he's doing what he does. That's not bad luck on United's part. That's good goalkeeping. So I was pretty annoyed with the whole 6-goal shit, but I think our defenses looked a lot more solid and looked less at no point did I see that being another 4-0 4-1 shit show that we've had so many times this season. And people were marking it as that. People are like, oh, another standard 4-goal, game for Stoke. And I don't think it was ever going to be that at any point. And you can say it could have been if Zlatan had made that first goal. Yeah, okay, we can postulate all fucking day long about this and that, but it didn't go that way. And the longer that Lee Grant made those saves, the less and less confident United looked like scoring against him. And the game, that's how the game progresses. The game builds on itself. Whatever, man. So Lee Grant was awesome. Wilfried Bony. I didn't do a reaction last week, so I figured I'd do a really long one this week just to make up for it. So Wilfried Bony was first half just awful. I mean, he just was really giving up the ball. He had a few. There were moments in that game where you saw him working really hard to hold up the ball, to win back the ball, to fight for it, and you saw a real fight and drive in him to prove something that you haven't seen from him so far. So that was encouraging, or that I haven't seen from him so far. So that's encouraging because I think he wants to do well, and I think he's real determined to score a bunch of goals and play really well, and it's just not happening. But he's got to have that work rate to make that happen, and so it was nice to see that. He got subbed off. Crouch came on, who's been doing pretty good. He's been a pretty good sub. He just brings a different style and a different danger to what's going on, and I mean, he almost scored the goal. He was the one who was in there, so that missed it, but it was good. But Bonnie, I just think, is really having trouble, and I think he's got to click soon, or there's going to be some worries. I mean, and if he's getting paid the amount of money he is and he's not doing this kind of stuff, at some point Mark Hughes has to drop him, and at some point that gets really awkward, when you're paying a guy so much to sit on the bench and he's not producing anything for you, and then he's going to go back to Manchester City and they're going to want to get rid of him, and then he has had a bad loan spell, so he's going to be cheap and he's going to go to a club he doesn't want. So he clearly wants to make this work, but it's just not happening yet. So hopefully that happens soon. There's been some random talk about Mark Hughes going. There was a while back. I just don't. I don't think that's going to help the club right now. I think about Swansea. I think they freaked out and got rid of Gary Monk, and they never really made a proper replacement. They waited for months. They couldn't figure anyone out. They didn't have someone lined up before they fired him. They brought in Gwendolyn, and he's now just been fired a couple days ago after like 5 months. Some people said it's harsh, but I don't think he ever should have been in charge in the first place. I think he was. I think it was just an appointment they made because they had to make an appointment. I don't think he was ever a good fit, and it was doomed from the start. And I feel bad for the guy. Fair enough. He didn't really ever wasn't put into a good situation to succeed, but he wasn't able to produce. And so, anyways, that's what I think with Mark Hughes. Who are you going to bring in? I mean, the two of the names Swansea went with Bob Bradley, who's an American and stuff. But the other two people a lot of people were talking about were Steve Bruce, who I don't see him being I don't see him being able to like help Stoke out. I mean, if we're in a relegation scrap, maybe we need to hit him up. And right now we're in relegation, but it's pretty early. It's early enough in the season where I don't think we have to worry about that too much. And Steve Bruce just doesn't seem like any kind of fit. It seems like it's it would revert back to. I just don't think he would be building the kind of team that Mark Hughes has been trying to build, and so I don't know that he'd be able to use those players in the way he wants, and I just don't think it makes sense. And then Ryan Giggs, he's got a lot of Premier League experience and stuff, but he's never really managed. He's never been a manager, and Swansea weren't willing to take that chance on him, it looks like, and I don't know. It's the kind of thing that could go either way. It could be real successful or it could be real horrible. So I don't think. The point being, I don't think they have anyone to line up for Mark Hughes to replace him right now if they really think they should. And I think they should stick with him because of that. Because until they know a solid replacement who they think can better that team for concrete reasons, it's just too big a gamble. And you could have someone in and someone new come in and it's just a whole total shit show. So I think Mark Hughes should be kept for now. I think he's made some changes and they've been positive. He's clearly reacted, and the last couple games have been better, but they still need to win, and he needs to get himself a win streak soon. And I don't know that even if he wins a couple games and then loses, if we have some more blowouts and we only have ties and we just can't, he might wind up going, which I hope he doesn't. I like the guy. So, anyways, next week is an international break, so there's not a game. So the week after that, we play somebody. I'll set a time for the live stream and put like a notification thing up. It'll be online. We'll be doing live commentary, not this weekend because it's an international break, but 2 weeks from now. Like I said, I didn't do a reaction video last week, so I figured I'd make this one kind of long and cover some stuff from last week and this week or whatever. So, have a good one. Thanks for watching. I'm the extremely partial commentator saying goodbye.